Just look at them. Did you turn it off?
Yeah, it's on. The green light's on. Hello, my name is Darlene Doetzel, and I want to welcome everybody and our candidates to the debate tonight, the District 8 Senate debate. Can we all stand up, please, and say the pledge? Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to introduce our moderators for tonight. They're going to be to my right. It's Genevieve Peters, and we all know Pastor Berlin, who is also going to lead us into prayer.
All right, let's all stand together, remove our hats, if we will, and let's pray together. Our Father, we do thank you for the country in which we live, the freedoms that we enjoy, the opportunity to express ourselves through our vote. And we're thankful, Heavenly Father, for candidates who have come tonight to be able to inform us of their positions on various issues, to be able to educate us on what they would do should they be elected. We thank you for each one who has exercised their duty and stewardship as citizens to come and to be informed, to support the process. And so I pray that you would be honored and glorified in all that is said and done tonight, for we do pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated. Well, we have four of the seven that were supposed to be here tonight, and we want to welcome each of, yes, please, go ahead and give them a bottled water in case you will need it. And these four candidates will have the opportunity tonight to express themselves, and so we want to thank you all for being here tonight, and to our candidates who are present. Would you please take the time to silence your cell phones so that they would not be a distraction in any way?
Thank you. The tradition of political debates in the U.S. dates back over 150 years. Debates give candidates the opportunity to share their ideas and potentially sway undecided voters.
In the election of 1858, when running for the U.S. Senate, future President Abraham Lincoln engaged his opponent, Stephen A. Douglas, in a series of 7 debates that increased their popularity in America. In this format, one candidate received an hour to make his opening statements, followed by an hour and a half rebuttal. You will not get that much time.
We won't be following that format. Our format tonight will be each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, answering the question, why are you running and why voters should vote for you?
The debate will be divided into 3 segments of 20 minutes each. The first segment will focus on priorities and direction of District 8. The second segment will focus on securing elections. The final segment will be on being effective in Lansing.
In each segment, moderators will pose questions to the candidates on the topics outlined. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Each candidate will have an opportunity for rebuttal if another candidate challenges their opponent. 30 seconds.
Did we draw numbers?
No, we didn't. That's the other thing.
We were going to have you draw numbers to see who is first, but what we're going to do is we're just going to make it easy and go alphabetical order, and that way it'll be simple. All right, the candidates will answer the same question that is asked, and we will allow you to answer it in alphabetical order as you will introduce yourself and do your first 2 minutes.
The debate will end with a 1 minute of closing remarks. A sweet bell will ring when time has been exhausted. We ask all candidates to respect the sweet bell. The lectern candidate names are set up in alphabetical order, and the introductions will begin the same. Please introduce yourself, answering the question, why are you running, and why should voters vote for you?
Segment 1, priorities and direction of the District 8.
Pastor?
Well, we will do that in just a second, but we're going to let Mary start with your 2 minutes of introducing yourself.
So hello everyone and welcome. My name is Mary Berlingeri and I'm running to secure your vote and support for your next state senator. You may ask why I am running. I am a true Christian conservative Republican who is very much concerned over what has been happening in our state. Here are some of the issues that are confronting all of us. Government overreach, double standards, and confusing policies by our governor. Unelected officials making and executing public policy, like our health department. I'm sorry, is this not on?
Yes,
Okay.
just speak into it. Speak into it.
Unlawful lockdowns, fines, and imprisonment of our citizens who are just trying to feed their families, our children that have been denied proper education, masking of our children with unscientific demands, and vaccination requirements to attend universities while the CDC states otherwise for children under 20. I am also running because I am the right person at the right time that can get things done. I am not beholden to anyone or any special interest groups. My experience, I have what is needed to fill the position. I have worked in automotive engineering, the financial industry, and in education at the University of Detroit Mercy. I am detail-oriented, analytical, no budgets, and can express them in a constructive manner. Many politicians have alienated themselves and are only seen at election time. Know this: if elected, you are all my employer. I have the responsibility to report to all of you, not send you a brochure of political rhetoric and misguided information. You send me to Lansing, and I promise you I will raise all of your concerns in a meaningful and constructive manner that will bring change. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Bill Carver, and if I had known we were going to go alphabetically, I would have changed my last name to Aardvark. But actually, the reason why I'm running, other than being the funny guy up here, but the reason why I'm running is when the governor shut down the state, she had the authority for about 90 days, 60 days, and we all thought, yeah, okay, 15 days to stop the spread. I can do that for 15, fine, I'll go home for a while, sit back and relax. But then she ran out of that authority, and she started governing without the authority of the legislature. Now, when the legislature was not exercising their authority, not asserting themselves and saying, hey, governor, you can't do this without us. And there was some court battles, there was some other things, but there wasn't a lot of pushback. I had gone to Lansing for a few protests. There were no politicians that were elected that I know of that were at the protest, either speaking or even standing with us. There might be an exception to that. They'll make us aware. There he is. Okay. But other than Terry, I didn't see any other ones. I almost forgot you, Terry. I apologize. So for myself, I want to go into Lansing to make noise for you, to make sure that the legislature has the power that the legislature should have, that the right things are done. That includes being pro-life, pro-business, pro-freedom, and pro-making sure that Michigan is a free state. And that includes not wearing masks, even if some variant comes in. That includes not being forced to have any kind of a by private or even public, any kind of a vaccine. Your medical choice is your body, whether or not you want to have that. And also there should be other things, different drugs and treatments that turn out, if they were recognized the way they should have been recognized, we might not have even had to take the risk of vaccines. So I'm running because I want to represent you, and when the governor or when anybody else is not making enough noise with things, I will make noise. So thank you once again. Okay. One last thing, of course, just to introduce myself in the other spot. Why vote for me? That's about it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Grant.
My name is Grant Galassa. At the time, I was actually the third candidate to sign up to run because I wasn't going to allow two incumbents who didn't have the decency of for their constituents to show up tonight, and that's evident. I mean, I don't need a speech to paint a picture, but the picture serves itself. Being a younger individual, the reason I'm running is because this country is going down the wrong path. Over the last year and a half, we've had a governor who has overreached her authoritative powers several times. And At the beginning of COVID, the mask restrictions, the shutdown of businesses, the shutdown of restaurants, I'm sure everybody here knows a business owner, and everybody's business was impacted by that shutdown, the unconstitutional shutdown. That cannot occur in the future. There have to be limits, and that's why when this country was founded, the founding fathers restricted that kind of behavior. They came from Great Britain. They knew what regulation was from overseas. Why were they paying taxes? They weren't supposed to be paying taxes because they weren't receiving any services in the United States from Great Britain. The founding fathers are rolling in their graves today. There is no doubt in my mind. I'll be the voice in Lansing because our leaders have failed us. They haven't been there for us. I doubt either one of them helped secure funding for any of the restaurant owners who have suffered massive losses over the last year. Someone needs to have a voice. We don't have politicians with a spine. We don't have politicians who speak on the benefit of their constituents. And quite frankly, if it takes a younger person to run, that's what I'm here to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry?
Hello, everybody. My name is Terrence McCaskey, and I thank you for this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm running for the vacant 8th District Senate seat, and I want to tell you something about myself. I was born in the city of Detroit at 7 Mile and Van Dyke. It's a rough area, and at the time, I could have really went either way. Thank God I had a police officer who took a liking to me and took interest in me, and him along with my father helped me become a Detroit police officer at the age of 19 years old. They convinced me to be a Detroit police officer, and it was the biggest blessing I had from God. I worked in the city of Detroit for 5 years. Then I went on to work with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, where I worked there for 26 and a half years as a deputy, a detective, a sergeant, a lieutenant, and a deputy commander of our patrol services unit. While I was also there, I ran an FBI task force for 8 years, and I ran a DEA task force for 4 years in Macomb and Oakland counties, protecting our borders and keeping drugs away from our youth and working our hotels. This is where usually these out-of-state drug traffickers end up. So working the hotels, I became very, very familiar with our human and sex trafficking, which is a major, major problem here in Michigan. And many people don't realize that, but it really is, and that's going to be one of my, the drugs and the sex trafficking, we're really going to hit that hard. I retired in 2016, but I quickly returned to the DEA. I'm their senior financial investigator in charge of our opioid strike task force right now. And I tell you all this because I want to give you my qualifications and why I feel I should be your next senator in Lansing. I bring the law enforcement experience, the investigative skills that are needed at such a time. We need somebody to protect our constitutional rights, to defend our law and order and bring that back to our neighborhoods. We need somebody who's going to back our law enforcement community. Let's face it, we need a new sheriff in Lansing. And I hope that you give me the opportunity to serve you people and be your voice. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you, candidates. I appreciate your introductions. Segment 1 is priorities and direction of District 8. Michigan is at the forefront of other states in marijuana consumption, Medicaid recipients, the highest minimum wage, most paid sick leave, environmental regulations are at the highest, poor roads, and crime is rising in Macomb. What would you change and how? We'll start again and go alphabetically.
Okay, well, all of that is very important.
Can I just help as well? The question is back there if you need it reiterated for you. And
Okay.
if it's easier for you to hold your mic, do, but these mics require you to speak right into them.
Okay.
And that'll help everyone, okay?
You know what, I don't think, there we go, okay. Okay, so, to reiterate what you had said, you not hear me?
Let me just help you.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm not that small. All right. So all of what you have mentioned is very important. There's a couple other things that are not on the list that I would say are equally at the forefront. We haven't heard about one of them too much recently, and then one most recently. So I'd like to just discuss, first of all, most recently the Second Amendment sanctuary that just recently happened, where I applaud our Board of Commissioners for making a bold political statement by voting for the Second Amendment sanctuary in Macomb County. However, That is all it is. It's a message to Lansing. There are no legal grounds to enforce it. Every law enforcement officer has pledged to uphold the Michigan Constitution. I would like everyone to know, as your senator, I would like to take the Second Amendment sanctuary and add it to our Michigan Constitution. It's only a statement right now, and you need a better leader. You need a strong leader like myself to make it part of the Michigan Constitution. Every state has rights. Another very important issue, in addition to all the ones that you had just mentioned, are veteran affairs and benefits. I met with the veteran personnel who deals with veteran benefits down in Macomb County. Her name is Laura Rios. I wanted to let you know that Macomb County is the third largest county in Michigan, and we have over 45,000 veterans who live here in the county. Sadly, our state of Michigan ranks near the bottom for federal VA funding. I would work with our recently elected congresswomen to ensure that they receive the benefits that they deserve and are treated with dignity. We must obtain more funding for these vets. This needs to be a priority, as we are all living longer, and so are our brave men and women who have served us. Once again, to remind you, we have over 45,000 veterans in Macomb County alone right now.
Thank you. Bill?
Okay, so for myself, being the forefront in that list is not exactly the best list, but I'll take them one at a time. Marijuana consumption is a pretty big one. However, when I separate out from that marijuana consumption, how much is people fighting a medical condition such as nausea with cancer and other medical conditions that happens to help. I'm not a doctor, I'm not their doctor. I really can't tell somebody, hey, your doctor can't prescribe this if he thinks it's gonna work. Whether it's marijuana or whether it's hydroxychloroquine. I don't have a place to say that. The government doesn't really have much of a place if the drug is safe and legal and so on. Recreational, I'm less for that, only because you wouldn't take aspirin just because you like the effect of aspirin, but there it is. Medicaid recipients and all that goes with our economy having problems. One of the things that causes us to have such a problem with the economy is we are overzealous with some of our environmental regulations. I would work to lessen those without actually causing environmental harm. I would also try to get funding for Candace Miller to actually do things to stop the number one harmful thing in Michigan from happening, and that is dumping sewage into Lake St. Clair. That's a pretty big thing that we have going on. Of course, the Democrats always talking about PFAS. That's the next scary four-letter word. But quite frankly, it's the government dumping sewage that's a really large source of that. So if we have better drinking water through that, if we have less people on assistance, Medicaid is a part of assistance for unemployment and those things. If we get the state open, if we get the regulations down, we find just the necessary regulations with environmental regulations and other things, health items and so on, we can do a lot of work to take care of all kinds of things. And if everybody's working and if everybody's prosperous, we can have better roads. We can have lower crime. We can have all these things just by doing that, making Michigan a better place to live. And you do that, and a lot of that bad stuff goes away. And there's the bell. All right.
Thank you.
The common denominator in areas of high crime is high unemployment. When the unemployment rate is high in society, you always have a greater crime rate. That's proven time and time again throughout the entire country, not just in Michigan alone. Jobs solve the crime problem that we have in Michigan and the rising crime problem we have in Macomb County. Medicaid recipients, that's perfectly fine. I support that for the people who are supposed to be receiving those benefits. But in today's society, fraud accounts for probably more than half of those actual dollars spent. The amount of fraud in Medicaid is incredible. And the misbillings by doctors, if 1% of the doctors are caught misbilling, they tarnish 99% of the other doctors' reputations. Fraud has to be cracked down on, and I'm sure Mr. Murkowski will agree with that. The amount of fraud that occurs increases the price of health care for everybody, whether you have private insurance or public insurance. To speak to the unemployment question some more, on the Van Dyke corridor, the defense corridor where all the defense companies are and GM's located, a lot of automotive companies, there are 10,000 job openings today. I spoke with a business owner the other day on Van Dyke. He told me nobody's applying to work. That is a major problem. For the last year, the government has been competing with the private sector for employees based on unemployment. They were receiving more compensation than they were when they were working in their jobs. $962 originally was a lot more than most of these people made. That's why McDonald's is closed at 10 o'clock now. You can't go to McDonald's and get a hamburger because they can't find employees. It's wrong. As far as the sick leave part of the question, the government shouldn't be involved in sick leave for private corporations. That's an overreach, again, by the government in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll address them one at a time. The marijuana consumption. Well, for the first time in Michigan's history, we've become a produce state for marijuana. Unfortunately, we allowed that bill to go through, and marijuana is legal in our state. So those of us who don't appreciate that, you can get a referendum or a petition going and try to do something about that. But now that we have it legal, we got to deal with it. There's drug driving. We need to get a whole bunch more officers trained in that. Our special response people need to know what's going on. Drunk driver, we can spot, we can test on the spot, and there's no issue with that. The marijuana drivers are causing just as much or more than the drunk drivers are, and if they haven't been drinking alcohol, in most cases they're released or sent to the hospital. So we're going to work on that. Our Medicaid recipients, Grant was right about that. Being in law enforcement for many, many years, I don't know how many drug dealers I put away, and 99.9% of them are on Medicaid, and they're healthier than me, and they could outrun me, but they were on Medicaid. So we need to tackle that with our Medicaid investigators in Lansing and in the state here. Hiring the minimum wage, I always think that's a trickle-down effect. It really doesn't help to higher the wages, because people, the business owners are going to be the ones paying for it. They're going to be the ones passing the cost on to you in consumer goods and everything that they do. So that's a moot point in my opinion. Minimum wage jobs in most cases are starter jobs, and I think that's the way it needs to stay for right now. Our environmental regulations, of course, we have governments, but we also have overreaching government spendings and overreaching regulations and regulatory agents that abuse their power, and they did so in our shutdowns, and that needs to be looked at. You had a governor that used their regulatory agencies as her own private SS to go after business owners or barber salons or restaurants that were staying open. That's unconscionable, and we got to make sure that never happens again. Our roads, of course, need to be fixed, but I do believe that you don't always have to raise the taxes. We have to look for the fat in our government. Smaller government, not bigger government. So I think the key to everything is smaller government, not bigger government, and we can't put up with taxation without representation. That's the main issue that we have in our government. There's no accountability.
Let's go ahead and we'll just step one on this next question, and then the next question, and the next question. That way it divvies up who's first and who's last.
Yeah, perfect. Michigan State Senators are paid approximately $72,000 a year. This is supposed to be a full-time job. Would you continue employment outside of your state Senate job? And would this be a pay cut for you?
It's kind of fun. I can tell you a little story about myself. Up here you may have noticed that I'm not dressed in a suit and tie, and well, she's not dressed in a suit and tie, but she looks good. But you notice that I came up here in a polo shirt and a pair of work boots, and that's because I used to work for Quicken Loans, and then I got canceled for Facebook posts. And next thing you know, I am looking around, I find a job, I go back to another job I have, which is known as freight relocation engineer, and I found out that was a $20,000 increase over what I was making. And so now I'm making very close to what that number is. Would I still drive a truck when I get there? No. When I'm working as a state senator, I work for you. And so I am the best dressed truck driver there is and the worst dressed candidate, but I promise I will dress better in the House, in the Senate, and get those things done. Also, I want to cover minimum wage for just a moment, because no matter what number you set it at, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $30, $50 an hour, you can ask anybody that doesn't understand economics, hey, wouldn't $100 an hour be great? Well, actually, no matter how high you set that minimum wage, the minimum wage is always zero. Because if they can't afford to hire you, you won't be working, and you'll be on Medicare, and you'll be on unemployment. You'll be doing all these things. Maybe smoking marijuana so you feel better. I don't know. But essentially, minimum wage, no matter how high you set it, is zero. So we need to recognize that reality and make Michigan a friendly place to open a business, hire people, get them working. The good news is when McDonald's closes at 10 o'clock, we're all going to be healthier for that. So that's always a good thing. All right. Well, yeah, that's true. Donuts. All set.
Thank you.
So this would be a significant pay cut for myself. I'm an engineer. I also have a business degree. So yes, it would be a significant pay cut. Would I continue employment outside of the state Senate job? No. I work for the taxpayers at that point. And nor will I be accepting campaign contributions from mega corporations or mega PAC funds like the current incumbents who are running for this seat do. And oftentimes, those contributions are greater than most average people's salaries in our entire state, which is a disgrace. Thank you.
You had to put that up. That's not over here, right? For my wife to see how much that is. Yeah, I'm going to take a significant pay cut. But we're lucky enough at this point in our lives. We're empty nesters. We have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it for the money. We're doing it because we believe in a cause, a higher cause, and we want to help our country. We want to help our kids, and we want to help the people of the 8th district first and foremost. So yeah, it's a significant pay cut. I don't even like looking at that.
The answer, yes, of course. This would be a pay cut for me, and no, I would not continue employment. Right now, I actually, when I do something, I do it 150%, so I took a step back from my job in education at the University of Detroit, Mercy, and decided that, you know what, this is the time. This state needs us. Our District 8 needs me right now, and I am the most conservative, truly Christian Republican candidate, and I have a voice like no other, and I will fight. I am a mother of 4 kids, and no one's going to fight for my kids like I am. And I'm not only fighting for my kids, I'm fighting for all of our kids, our grandkids, and their future. Thank you.
Thank you. On segment 2, on securing elections, on June 23rd, 2021, Republican Senator Ed McBroom, chairman of the Oversight Committee, issued a 55-page report concluding, "Our clear findings is that citizens should be confident the results represent the true results of the ballots cast by the people of Michigan." What is your position on this report and their findings? Are you in favor of a forensic audit of the 2020 election? If so, what will you do to make sure Michigan conducts a forensic audit? We'll start with Grant.
So I am in support of a forensic audit, depending on the county you lived in or depending on the area you lived in. Where you have more votes than people who are alive or more votes than people who are registered to vote, that would indicate fraud to a high schooler or a kindergartner. It wouldn't matter who you would ask. So I think that is absolutely necessary to be done in certain areas. I'm not talking about every county, just in the areas that it should be completed in. I did not see the report. I heard all about the report. If there's nothing to be hidden, though, what they should do is release everything to the public, which you should be entitled to under FOIA, but they won't. And everybody should be able to review it for themselves. That will never happen, because if they did that, most likely you would find some discrepancies. The public would find probably many discrepancies, and there would be a total uproar over maybe minor situations, but also maybe major situations of fraud. What would I do to make sure Michigan conducts an audit? You would have to start in by proposing the legislation, but you can have a very vocal voice in that regard, and you can certainly draw publicity. I didn't see any questioning from the current representatives that represent both of our districts in the House, and that draws a lot of concern to myself, because if you don't have elections, you don't have a country, and if you don't have a country, then why are we paying taxes?
Okay.
I read the Senate report, and I was overwhelmed by it. I sat through almost 8 hours of Senate hearings, watching the House and the Senate, and I couldn't believe, obviously our senators and our House of Reps don't know what evidence is. Going through all of it, there's more than enough to at least, at the very least, ask for a forensic audit. We have problems with the machines. We have problems that were hooked up to the internet that can change machines. We had voter connection that was found to have gone out of our country, not even out of our state, out of our country. We had ballots that were unfolded. We had folks harvesting ballots at the colleges, telling people to register. Even though they didn't live in the state, they were harvesting ballots. The mail-out ballots, the AV ballot was illegal in Michigan, and they did that, and nobody said a word about it. And he's right. The Senate, the findings, if you read it, you'll see not very many cliff notes. They all had a sign of disclosure that they would not speak of what they found in the report. Are you for real? I mean, and why isn't somebody saying it? Why isn't our representatives, why isn't our senators saying, are you kidding me? This is a republic we're in. You have the right, I have the right to know what they're doing. We put them there. They're not telling us what to do. We need somebody that's going to stand up and be a voice. And when I say that, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We need somebody to stand, and these representatives, if you haven't seen them, if you haven't seen our senators in the last year and a half with all the tyranny that's went on, you're never going to see them. You need somebody, I don't care if it's jumping up and down on the stairs at the Capitol to draw attention. And we can also do a petition to go directly to the Senate to put this on the ballot, and that's exactly what we need to do. They always say you don't want to throw a bill in because the governor is gonna veto it. Well, she can't veto it if we do the petition and send it right to our majority Senate. A majority Senate, which nobody went to Arizona. Me and my wife were in Arizona, and at the time when we left out, there was 150,000 votes that were in discrepancy. Unbelievable. So absolutely, I'll spearhead that.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I wish it was as simple as somebody coming forward, especially somebody from our Republican Party, to say that that the findings are true and accurate, and that we should trust that all the ballots were counted and casted properly and honestly. However, we have a lot of people within our own party that are, well, let's just say, are questionable at the very least. So a lot of them, they're referred to as rhinos. So my position on this report and its findings is, well, I tend to not believe this report. I have enough people that, including myself, where you go down to view the polls, and they have the windows covered. There is a lot of discrepancy. When enough people come forward and talk about issues where they're not able to get in, or they've had all these different ballots, or ballots were mailed to their house for people that used to live there years ago, we have a serious problem here. There are things we can do, and I'm hoping that we get a chance to talk about that. I'm definitely in favor of a forensic audit. We definitely need one. If there's nothing to hide, there should be no reason why we don't have one. At least focus on the areas where they are in question, where there is voter fraud. I'm not saying let's do an audit at every single precinct and city, but the ones that there are totally questionable, and then if proven, and I know we will, we can then expand into other areas. What will I do to make sure that Michigan conducts one? Well, I'm here, I'm running, I am a strong voice, and I am going to push through. I'm going to go up against Democrats, Republicans, because to me, it doesn't matter what side. We need integrity back into our elections. If we don't have that, then we have nothing. Okay, so I'm looking to take back our government, and I am part of not the Republican, not the Democrat, I am a part of the patriots. I'm a true patriot, and I'm fighting for justice and for our rights.
Very good.
All right, I like to describe elections as 4 words, if we could have that. And the election I'd like to describe is one that is free, one that's fair, one that's honest, and one that's trustworthy. Let me ask a question of everybody in the audience. I know we're supposed to answer the question, but I'm going to ask you one. How many people here, by a show of hands, think we had a free, fair, honest, and trustworthy election? Anybody? That means there are no Democrats in this room, because they're the only ones that think that there was a free, fair, and honest, and trustworthy election. Now, what I've seen is we have the different evidence that we have seen, and they told us that we didn't see that, right? They're doing the gaslighting thing, saying, no, 140,000 ballots didn't show up at Cobo Center, or whatever they call that place now. And they're telling us all these things. Really, that fast? Okay.
I think that was
You know what?
before.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
Yep, go
Keep
ahead.
going.
Okay, sorry. All right. So for myself, free, fair, honest, and trustworthy elections, a forensic audit could help. It might not help at all because they're going to count the same ballots that they brought through the door. But what I want to do is concentrate on moving forward. And one of the things that I've seen great about moving forward is actually Florida's newest election law, where if you get a chance to read through that, I actually linked a video on it on my website, billcarver21.com. And if you go into that, you find out a couple things. The voter registration for absentee ballots has to happen before each election. If there's going to be any kind of a box there, the box has to be monitored by a person, not by a camera. You have to have a reason to vote absentee. You can't just say, well, I don't feel like driving downtown. How far are we from the ballot box right now? I live about half a mile from the ballot box. Can I make that on Tuesday? The other part is, speaking of Tuesday, early voting, no. Or you vote Tuesday. If you have an absentee ballot, it's not counted until Tuesday. There's also a requirement in Florida for paper ballots to be there. If the electronics don't work, there is the paper to back it up, and the paper has the authority.
Thank you.
Correct. I'm sorry?
Are we not
Yes.
doing a rebuttal right now?
Yes.
I just
Yes.
wanted to add
30
something real quick to what Mary
Yes.
said.
30-second rebuttal.
Okay, and I think Bill said, I am calling for a full forensic audit. What we got to realize is all these machines are connected through the internet. They can manipulate that anywhere they want. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to manipulate in an area where I think that people aren't really going to say much about it or do a little bit from everywhere. You need a full forensic audit to make sure that every vote is counted.
Either one of you want 30 seconds?
Well, you have to start somewhere. So just the fact that we're able to pick out a few areas just to show that there are discrepancies, huge discrepancies, and then open it up to all areas is what I would say.
To a full forensic audit, but the most important thing as a senator, now somebody is going to do the full forensic audit, and I wouldn't mind calling for that if somebody wants that. Obviously, the people in this room say, yes, we need that, and I'd be willing to accommodate because as a senator, I work for you. But I'm also going to concentrate as a senator on how do we keep this from happening again. I also agree that we should know what happened in order to do that, but Florida's law is very good. And they actually dealt with hanging chads and swinging, whatever they call those, way back when, during the election of 2000. They fixed it so well that really all we need to do is mirror that. But forensic audit, if you'd like it, I would certainly say yes, do the audit, get it done, find out what's there.
For the record, I support it fully.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. At this point, we are going to allow the candidates to ask one question of the entire panel of candidates. So we're going to start with, it would be back
It's
to
going to be
Terry?
Terry.
Terry. So Terry, you will have an opportunity to ask your fellow candidates any question that you would like them to answer and answer it yourself.
All right, I would ask all our candidates, and I'd love to ask all our state reps and our House reps as well. When I worked for the Michigan Gaming Control Board for a brief period of time, we had to sign a full disclosure and turn over all our W-2s and all of our financial statements before we started, so that they would be able to check on us to make sure we weren't taking money for bribery, we weren't scamming the system, and this was in the casinos, which obviously they worry about more than they do anything else. I would ask if you would be willing to do that, because I most certainly would be more than willing to turn over my finances. I've done it before, during, and after, because I always say, Roosevelt quoted, you show me a politician who comes out of office, a millionaire, I'll show you a crook. We have a lot of crooks in Lansing.
So just to clarify, you want to know if they would be willing to turn over their personal financials before, during, and after they become
correct.
senator, okay?
Okay.
Okay, to you.
Well, that would probably coincide, first of all, the answer, yes, I would. That would coincide with House Bill 4022 in regards to transparency. Did you know that the Detroit Free Press wrote an article back in 2019 where Michigan is ranked at the very bottom, dead last, 50th in terms of transparency. How many people here know that House Bill 4022 and what exactly talks about? It's a transparency bill, and this bill it continues to allow lack of transparency. And why do I say that? Our elected officials voted on this bill, okay, which really just continues the lack of transparency. They all talk about they're looking to improve transparency, but Michigan has been dead last for many, many years. And I'm going to explain a little bit about this bill. This bill, when you read the first page, it sounds really great. But what's hidden in the last two paragraphs is where it clearly states, and I quote, "Keep private the names of the government employees and elected officials from their positions and salaries." That's not so transparent after all, is it? I would ask that the Republican lawmakers who are in charge to propose a bill that includes more transparency at all levels, create easier access without the need of FOIA. That being said, while you're in office, this bill, if rewritten and done correctly, would allow transparency if the people that were in office, that are in office, would have passed and said, hey, you know what? We want to keep our names with the elected positions and titles and the salaries. They voted to remove the names from those positions and salaries and make you have to pull a FOIA to get that information. Our tax dollars pay for their salaries. We have every right to know what they make and hold them accountable for. And then you would know whether or not, how much they're making, and before and after, you would see that. And it also, I would expand that into include, like in other states, where it allows you to dispose of your personal assets, including your wife's. Because if you're married to somebody who has a business and you're voting on a bill and there's a conflict of interest, you can see what can happen. They need to recuse themselves of it. You wouldn't know because you don't know what these elected officials and their spouses have. And so when they vote, yes, there's personal gain there. And I am all for complete, utter complete transparency. I have nothing to hide.
The good news is I have nothing to hide either. I have no money, so you feel free. State got it all, right? So myself, I actually wouldn't support that kind of a thing because of privacy. Right now, Donald Trump is dealing with getting indicted over unrelated things while the District of New York was going in trying to find some little thing someplace. And Michigan tax law, or I should say tax law in general, would be about 4 of these podiums tall if you get a look at it. And of course, somebody can thumb through that and go, hey, Terry McCoskey didn't pay to neuter his cat. I don't know if that's the case. It's just a weird example. Sorry. And do you have a cat, Terry?
Huh?
Do you have a cat?
No.
Good, you're clear.
I'm a dog person.
Okay, that's good. Dog, different thing. So for myself, I wouldn't do that kind of a thing for that reason, is that privacy is important. However, for public things, I would say things like while you're in office, you're not allowed to garner speakers fees because you're being paid by the state of Michigan and the people of the state of Michigan for what you do. So saying you're not allowed to get speaking fees, you're not allowed to get outside income from that, because after all, if you're trying to do something like that, we can look at our current example in the White House right now. All you need to do is to get your son a job with Burisma in Russia, and all the money funnels that direction. So in the end of that thing, you give up privacy and you gain nothing from it.
I support something similar to that. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think when you look at Macomb County alone, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've had approximately 27 indictments of business owners and politicians. I don't know if anyone remembers Rizzo Trash Company. They were bought by GFL. Rizzo went to jail for bribery of several municipal politicians. Fazl Khan was a township engineer in Shelby Township. He went to prison for bribery. How about Tony Morocco? Tony Morocco, when he was indicted just recently. The amount of corruption that stems from campaign finance is out of control. It has been for a long time. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've been at almost every Shelby Township board meeting, the ones that are held in person. I haven't attended the Zoom ones. But I've always spoken to that campaign finance transparency point. If you don't know who's funding these politicians, more than likely they're getting some cut of your money, the taxpayers, because those contracts are taxpayer money. And at some point, that money's got to be collected to pay that politician. Bribery is out of control. To second Mary's point, yeah, there was a Detroit News article because the district attorney or the U.S. attorney in Detroit, when he was at Mackinac Island, I think it was in 2020 or it may have been 2019 before COVID, he even held a press conference and discussed the amount of corruption in Michigan exceeds every other state in this country. And that's unacceptable, and every taxpayer should be livid about that point.
If I can just make a quick rebuttal to Bill. When you're a private citizen, you should have your privacy protected. But when you're a public servant, that's why I'm saying it needs to be looked at. I'm a senior financial investigator now. I go after the money, follow the money. You can always find the criminals. It's always there. You can have criminals that get away with things for years, but believe me, if a forensic audit is done and we do a criminal investigation on the finances, no matter how many dummy accounts they set up, no matter how many bank accounts they set up, no matter how many transfers they make, it's all there. If you do your job, you can find it, and if you follow the money, you find the crook.
30 seconds.
30
The question
seconds,
is,
Bill.
who was actually following the money for Hunter Biden? Right? He's a private citizen. The law would not apply to Hunter Biden. So I'm making that new law to do that. Now, I'm okay with financial disclosures the way we do them. Excuse me? Yeah, 10% for the big guy, but was that reported, right? So that's that. So in other words, it didn't catch that. And all the people that you mentioned were actually caught without that law, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were.
But not for years. And how many millions of dollars were lost by taxpayers for that amount of time? Lots of money, and lots of your money.
We just need to look better. Right?
All right, thank you very much. Mary, if you have a question for the other candidates, it's your turn.
Well, let me think about that. I'm going to go with, to all the candidates, how do you feel about individuals living in one district and then at the last minute applying for a candidacy in another district in a short window right before changing their address at the last minute?
You want me to take that because I know that's directed at me?
Oh, no, all the candidates.
And obviously, I now know who's passing those rumors.
We'll go in order.
Okay.
We'll go in order. Bill, you're first.
Well, for myself, it's a case of law. I used to tell my students before, Evel Knievel, if those that are old enough to remember that, he was a guy that ran motorcycles, jumped over the various canyons. He had a major accident at the Snake River Canyon once where he got over there and he had to jump the motorcycle, and you either make it or you don't make it. And the way the law reads is exactly that. It's that black and white. You're either in the district before the deadline to apply or you're not in the district. If you move your address and it's your primary address, right? And your primary address is where you file your taxes from, where your mortgage is, and so on, then if it was done before the filing deadline, it's something that is not something that we all like to hear, but it's actually perfectly legal and perfectly ethical if you happen to move into some place. The only thing is when you see somebody move into some place and then move out of a place and then move into another place, Hillary Clinton, you see them do all that stuff, you know that they're moving for a different thing other than finding a different home. And quite frankly, moving to a district from here would be a terrible thing to think about. It's a $70,000 a year job with a 1-year expectancy of time unless you want to rerun for something. So, there's some people told me this was a $40,000 election to run. Who really would spend $40,000 to win a 1-year, $70,000 job? Or buy a new house or move someplace?
Thank you. Grant?
I support that, but I don't believe there should be a law, or I don't think it should be looked at from a legal point of view, and maybe in the manner that everyone else is implying. I think it's up to the voters to judge that person. It's up to the voters to decide, is that acceptable behavior or not. I'm not aware of any issues with Mr. Murkowski, but I mean, from what I've heard and what I've read, he's an outstanding guy, and I would vote for him if I wasn't standing here. And I may still vote for him, who knows? But I think he's got a...
You vote for me, I'll vote for you.
Yeah, I think he's a great guy, and I don't really care if he moved. I mean, this was a special election. This is a special time. If there's an issue there, I think it's a little petty to bring it up, but that's my opinion.
I'm debating whether even to give the answer after these other folks did, but I checked when I filed to be a senator. You had to be a U.S. citizen, check. You had to be 25 years of age or older, check. And you had to live in the filing district for 30 days prior to the filing, check. Made, I guess. But Mary, thank you for bringing that to our attention. If anybody has any questions of me, I have a house in in St. Clair Shores as well. We sold our house in Macomb County Township, and we're living in Shelby Township, and have been moving there since January to help with my wife's elderly parents who are in their 80s. So to bring that up and to say, really, I work for the federal government. I have top secret clearance. Everybody knows where I have to live. Check with the federal government. Follow me home. Do whatever you want to do. And I don't think, Mary, I think somebody else put you up to that, because I've got many texts on that, and that's a shame, because I thought you were a good person. I didn't understand
that as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So real quick here, this information actually was given to a good handful of the candidates. I had an email that it was given from a private source, and I was a little bit, to be honest, surprised. It was verified, and I do want to say, I know that you have to be a resident for 30 days, and he switched over, right before the deadline to go ahead and move to Shelby Township so that he was in the district. I guess my own concern is, because that falls within the laws, the only reason why I bring it up is the fact that your Macomb Township home, you are still claiming 100% homestead, and then at the very least, if
I close on the 13th for that home.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's that?
It's been sold, and I close on the 13th. Thank you.
You closed when?
On the 13th.
Of what month?
Of this month, and the reason is because the first sale fell through. So figure that out. I've been moving since January, long before we decided to run.
Well, that's fine. This is information that came across all the candidates, so I am bringing it up. I addressed it to all the candidates, and we'll just leave it there. I mean, I only go off of what's on paper, black and white, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember,
You should have at least asked me or did some research.
There
You
is
can follow me home if you want.
All right.
30 seconds rebuttal.
We all hear what's going on there, and it's over. Next question, Bill.
Oh, next
A
question.
question
Okay.
for the other candidates.
Yep, okay. So for getting there, I guess my one question that I would have for you, and it's actually my number one concern as a candidate, is that, again, Terry, I guess you were there at the State House steps and you were fighting publicly, and I assume trying to get news attention and all those things going. The reason why I'm running is I needed to have noise happening, and as a matter of fact, I actually got on the ballot before Terry got on the ballot, and had I known, I might have looked and said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and support a fighter, whoever that fighter may be, whether it's any one of those folks on the stage with me. As I like to say, you're all my second favorite candidate in this case. I'm my first one, and I'd even say Pam and Doug are still among my second favorite candidates. The only thing is, the only reason why I would not vote for them in this case is that we need to have their votes in the House. If we take somebody from the House and we move them to the Senate, we don't gain anything necessarily. It's minus one.
What is
plus
your
one.
question?
So my question is, to make it short, if you go there, will you make noise? Will you fight to make sure that the authority of Michigan, the authority of the legislature, and specifically the Senate, is right in line with what the people want, and that we actually hear from you?
Grant?
Absolutely, and you'll probably get tired of my voice too. But when we lost Pete Lucido from the Senate, Pete Lucido used to give interviews all the time with Fox 2 News, on The Edge at 11. I mean, he was all over the place giving Detroit News interviews, Macomb Daily interviews. He brought the issues that Macomb County residents had to the table. Today, I don't know if either of these incumbents have brought up a single issue that the residents, their constituents, actually face. I don't think they have. I haven't seen anything except for, election time, where all the talking points come out. I'm pro-life, I am pro this, pro that. They don't do anything. They're all talk and they're no action. They don't even talk. That's the worst part. These politicians don't even talk. Where is their voice? Where is your voice? The constituents that elect them. They say all these nice things, they have all these niceties during election time, but they don't act on them. They don't even voice their concerns in Lansing. They go there, they enjoy their salary, they enjoy their campaign contributions, and they leave. And they don't care about you, I can tell you that.
Yes, I agree 100%. We need to be vocal. I need to be vocal. If you send me to Lansing, I will be vocal. Anybody that knows me knows I can be a bull in a china shop. And there's no way, I put away drug cartels, I put away mafia members, I put away the outlaw bikers. I'm not gonna let a bunch of liberals or rhinos in Lansing stop me. You got my word, you're gonna get sick of seeing me, you're gonna get sick of hearing me, but we're gonna, whatever you tell me to do is what we're gonna do. Once I get elected, it's not about what I think, it's what you think. And I work for you. And for anybody who wants this position, you should be a people person. You should be talking to your constituents, and you should be the voice of your constituents, not of yourself. So I will definitely be heard, even if I have to jump up and down on the stairs of the Capitol, and we'll make it happen one way or another.
Well, I'm definitely not afraid to ask a question, even though you may feel offended. This was circling. I want to just show you that I will go up against anybody, and I will ask questions, and that's the only way to find out the answers. I didn't go ahead, I didn't put it out there on social media. When I have something to ask, I will ask the person directly, and we shall see, you know, the outcome. But I just want you to know that if there's any question about whether or not I'm afraid to use my voice or go up against anybody, I hope you understand and see that, no, I am not, because I'll tell you what, nobody else will sit there and question or ask. They will sit there on the sidelines, wait for stuff to happen, and then complain about it after the fact. So I'm more of a proactive person rather than a reactive person, and that's how I live my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Grant, your time to ask a question.
So my question involves the college tuition rate in the state of Michigan and the curriculum that is being taught in our universities, because it's total garbage if you ask me. Will you candidates work to decrease the cost of college tuition? And if so, how? But more importantly, how will we get the substantive material that is being taught, the garbage, to our students, our America's future, changed so that they're actually learning American history and not some liberal BS, because that's what it is, at these universities, and paying through the roof for these classes? One of the incumbents, I believe she chaired the education committee for quite a while, and she decided that third graders didn't need to read at the final vote. Come time for the final vote, she decided third graders didn't need to read, because if they did, you would be failing too many students in the state of Michigan. That's a failure for our future, if you ask me. And if you look at China, or you look at any other first world country or third world country, their students have to learn how to read and write and do basic arithmetic. And in today's world, those are all second priorities.
Okay.
Well, I believe 100% our schools need to be taken back. First, from kindergarten to elementary to the high school, all the way up to our colleges. But we need to do that by what the GOP is doing right now, especially in Macomb County. We're hitting our school boards. We're getting our school board conservative Republicans elected. The majority of these school boards are all liberal Democrats. Go look at any one of your school boards and you're going to find 90 to 95%. And even you're going to find teachers on those boards who self-serve themselves. When we have a teachers union that worries more about themselves than they do the kids, then that's where the main problem is. We absolutely have to address that on every aspect. As far as our colleges and them being overpriced, it's a competitive world out there. Would I stop that from happening? I worked my way through college. I know a lot of other folks did. There's different incentives and plans that we can put in place for that to occur. But I'm not one for say, give you a free ride, because that goes back to Bernie Sanders and socialism. I'm all for making it affordable, don't get me wrong. I think we definitely need to make it with people's income, with their parents, and make it adjustable so that everybody can afford a great education. We need to stop this critical race thing that they're teaching our kids right now, and it's got to be stopped right now. It's got to be stopped right now. They're already employing, in our districts, these cultural diversity jobs for these folks. That their job is to go in there and teach this to our students, that the white privilege, and if you're black, you're not as good. And it's just horrible what they're teaching our kids. And I heard a couple examples the other day about a teacher in West Bloomfield who had asked their white students, if you're white, step forward. If you have both parents, step forward. If your parents are employed and have their own business, step forward. And when they were done stepping forward, she pointed to all those kids and told them, well, this is what white privilege looks like. Isn't that a shame? She ostracized these kids because of their parents working hard. Probably most of them were immigrants that came here like my grandparents and parents did, and worked their way out of the city or worked their way out of a lower income community to make a difference. So our schools are our main. The socialists knew that from back in the old days. Germany. What did Hitler say? Give me your youth. I'll rule the world. Thank you.
We have to be vocal. We have to stand up. I've been talking with a lot of moms, true patriot moms, that have been rallying together. There's a group page out there on Facebook, on social media, and probably more than that I'm even unaware of. Attending the board meetings that the school districts have. I've been attending them and seeing the parents come forward and expressing their concerns, and that's really one of the biggest ways anybody can do anything is to make their voices heard. Let them know how frustrated we are as parents and grandparents and how this is affecting our kids. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't complain about critical race theory and let them know that, you know what, this is racist. That is very racist what they're looking to do, what they're pushing on our kids, and being vocal, and honestly hearing the moms talk about how they are sick of the school district, pulling their kids out of school, sending them to different school districts or homeschooling. They need to hear that. They need to know that they're going to lose that funding for those kids. So you have to, us all together, we have to support each other, take a stance, because that's the only way it's going to get done. I'll tell you, these people that are elected officials, they're not doing anything. They're all corrupt, both sides of the board. It doesn't really matter. They're all compromised. They've become complacent for those that have been in office for a while. And I can see firsthand, like I said, no one's going to fight for their kids like a mother. I am passionate. I've met with these mothers, and I understand their concerns, and I'm so proud of them that, you're getting a letter from the superintendent out there in Romeo Community Schools saying that, this is right now, back in the fall, as of right now, things are to be as normal, as if the COVID had never happened. So we shall see. You hold them accountable, because it's their job, it's their bread and butter, and you let them know that you're not going to tolerate it. Come together.
All right, there are some universities that the state of Michigan controls, and then there are some universities that it doesn't control. And I've noticed that the most expensive universities out there, not just Michigan, but all across the country, are ones that are run by state governments, whether it be Michigan State University, University of Michigan, and all those. Community college, like the one used to be here, actually had a pretty good value. The same education at much less price. The difference is Wayne State University, same thing, very expensive place to go. And of course the Democrats are out there saying, you know what, we want to go ahead and make college free for everybody and pay that tuition bill, which means that the people who took Mike Rowe's advice and became electricians, truck drivers, and other professions where they actually work for a living and produce things are going to wind up paying for the education of some woke person with blue hair protesting the very country they live in. I don't want to have that happen. I don't want to pay for that college. The other part, critical race theory, of course. I have an interesting problem. I can't figure out whether I have white privilege or not. Thanks to my profession, I'm half red, half white, so I'm only half privileged in this case. The whole idea of that is it's racism. We came from a time when I could watch on television in one night, All in the Family, Sanford and Son, right? And what's the other one? I got to think of the third one.
Jefferson's.
Which one?
Jefferson's.
Jefferson's was another one. And also, there was one that was, got ahead. I can't think of the third one, but anyway, it's all right. So having all that stuff, we went from that and being able to produce and enjoy a movie and laugh at each other and with each other and at ourselves with movies like Blazing Saddles, where racism became so incredibly outside of our culture. We looked and said, this is ridiculous, and I agree. And incidentally, it's been a long time. We've gone downhill in such a big way, and it's basically over just political expedience on the part of Democrats. I can tell you that everybody on this stage will say, I oppose critical race theory. Everybody on this stage agrees that we shouldn't be forgiving tuitions, I bet, for people that went to college, so that a person like either myself or somebody else that's never gone to college is not paying for that. It's something that's just not smart to do.
Okay. Time is really flying.
Sorry about that. Moving on to segment 3, being effective in Lansing. COVID-19 has dominated the lives of Michiganders and the nation for over a year. Governor Whitmer's emergency powers were deemed unconstitutional, yet masks, vaccinations, vaccine and digital passports are coming via government agencies and private businesses. How will you stop this?
Starting with Mary.
Could you repeat that question again?
It's up there.
It's up on the board there.
Oh, gosh, I'm very passionate about this. So,
Make sure you use your mic, please. Thank you.
okay, so House Bill 4667. Vaccine passports. I don't know how many people know about them. This is to prevent government agencies, including public schools and universities, from asking about your vaccine. Well, we have a law, it's called the HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, otherwise known as HIPAA, and we have a Michigan Privacy Act. These laws are to protect sensitive patient health information from being disclosed without the patient's consent or knowledge. Okay, it's that simple. But our elected officials went ahead and voted and rallied around that. This is something great that they did. But sadly, our lawmakers are taking a victory lap on the passing of this House Bill 4667, which is regarding vaccine passports. This adds to public confusion when it is only and simply nothing more than political grandstanding for their next election. Meanwhile, many universities, as I speak, and there's more every day that are coming forward, and it's not just here in Michigan, it's throughout the United States, are requiring vaccinations for the fall for the students to attend. Before it was just if they were sleeping on campus in a dorm, now it's faculty, staff, and students. So what are we going to do about this? Again, we need to sit there and enforce our HIPAA and enforce our Michigan Privacy Act. We have laws in place. How about a law that enforces that and fines people or companies or schools for violating those laws? Okay? Honestly, it's that simple.
Thank you, Bill.
There are definitely laws that can be passed for that part, but it goes back to what I said earlier tonight, that when the governor first shut down Michigan under that Emergency Powers Act, I don't know if she had our fully the authority, although in the law it says, what was it, 60 days, I believe, that she had for that, and then she needs legislative input. I can tell you for about the first 14 days when it came to masks and staying in the house, vaccines didn't exist yet, she basically had our permission for about 2 weeks. So did Fauci. So, okay, I will believe you for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden we get to that 60-day spot and the legislature wasn't consulted. Then there was a court case. And at the end of the court case, there was still no enforcement. She just decided to have a Michigan multi-letter agency change the way things work to keep restaurants closed. And of course, all the mask mandates and everything else. I knew that putting a mask on, even in the first time, the COVID virus itself is smaller than essentially the thread, the space between the fibers of a mask. It was like fighting mosquitoes with chicken wire. It didn't do anything. It made people feel good. I wore a mask quite a bit when I was asked to wear a mask, and I actually caught the virus last July. Good news is, this is an Apple phone. They don't get viruses, so if you're on my phone, you're not going to get it from me. I'm good. I have my natural vaccine. So what would I do as a person? First of all, as a legislature, if the governor, any governor, this governor, if it's a Republican governor, same thing. If they do that same kind of thing, impeachment is in order. You're violating your office when you do that. Also, if you happen to be in the legislature and you didn't stand up, you're not doing your dang job when you do that. I would stand up, I would make noise, I would start impeachment procedures, I would do whatever it takes to get that person, to get that government in line with the authority given to it by the people. They work for us, we don't work for them.
Okay, thank you very much. To clarify, I believe that she had 30 days and the legislature gave her another 30 days, and then she was overstepping her bounds, just for clarification. Grant?
I think you can pass this through legislation, but unfortunately you would need approval from the governor's desk, and that's not going to happen. So the only way to stop this is to sue. And I mean, you see other states sue about other things. I think that there will be lawsuits filed. I don't think it's going to be from the House or the Senate or any individual in those two chambers of the legislature, but I do believe that someone's going to sue, and either the Supreme Court in the U.S. will hear it at a federal level, or you're going to have states decide individually. The Michigan Supreme Court will have to decide. I don't think it's something that you can legislate out of with the current situation we're in, where the Republicans don't have all three chambers. But another question that this poses is, what type of liability is any person in Michigan going to be able to recover from the government who required you to get the vaccine? They're not going to be able to sue the government. They're not going to be able to sue the university. They're not going to be able to sue anybody. And it's going to leave the taxpayers or the residents who have issues, if you do develop complications, you're going to be the one who's high and dry, and that's wrong. I would also use the left's logic of my choice, my body. I am 100% pro-life, but when it comes to this topic, I'll use the same logic and apply it the same way.
Okay. Thank you. Kerry?
Wow, this is the big one, and our governor has violated our rights every way possible. She did everything unconstitutionally that she could. She broke every law that she could. The vaccinations, we got to remember, our House and our Senate are putting through bills in many cases that are no more than soothing you, to keep you quiet, about election integrity, about vaccinations. They're putting bills together about federal and state buildings. Well, I don't know, last time, I don't live in a federal or state building. I don't, except for work, but most people don't work or visit state and federal buildings very often. Our main issue is our private sector, and our private sector is in bed with the liberals, and those are the folks. They can choke us to death with your travel, with going out of state, with going into a restaurant. If the private industries, especially the major corporations, start getting on board with this and forcing vaccinations, you're going to be forced to have a vaccination or lose your job. And this is what needs to be addressed. It's got to be addressed the same way discrimination is addressed, the same way sexism is addressed. It's got to be a law. It's got to be on the books. If we can't get it through with a bill, then we need to do a petition rally. We need to sue the governor. We need to put impeachment, which we should have already put through, an impeachment bill to get this unconstitutional governor out of office. But we need somebody up there that's got the cojones to do it. And right now we don't have that. We have a bunch of get along, go along politicians up there who are just doing the bare minimum just to keep you off their back and maybe get elected next time around.
And that'll segue into the next question. People are tired of politicians blaming others for what isn't getting done. You would be one of 38 members of the state Senate. Much of the legislative process in Lansing has been gridlocked between Republicans' control of the legislature and the veto power of a Democrat governor. How will you work past the roadblocks in Lansing to get things done? We'll start with Bill.
Last week I went to a meeting at the Republican office that we have on just up the street there in Garfield. And we had a state senator there who came to visit us. They weren't sure if he was going to show up or not. But in the process of him talking to us, somebody had asked him a question about legislation, and he said, "You know, we don't write legislation." What? You're a senator. It's your job. And what they were saying is, we have this committee who puts together legislation, we have some input, and we do our things, and then they give us a menu of what we're going to vote on, and this is what he had said. If that's how it works, I can tell you that we have 38 useless people staring at each other, just the way Lucido put it before, 38 people in a room staring at each other. The very first thing is persuasion. If I talk to somebody about things, you can find a way for conservative principles to match Democrat ideology. As an example, if you have a woman that is pregnant, and she wants to get an abortion, we can do things by law that require things like having to see an ultrasound, maybe having some kind of counseling for that, maybe even possibly having some kind of money spent. The Democrats would go on board for prenatal care and other health care. Maybe that could be in there, who knows? But find ways to listen to them, get their concerns, get the people behind them. As a senator myself, one of the things that I will do every single weekend is I will come here, whether it's here in this church or somewhere in an office or restaurant, a mall, outdoors, indoors. I will be here every weekend to hear your concerns, to listen directly to you in person, if I can do it. What I mean by if I can't do it is if there's some kind of a protest out in Lansing that people have that happens to be something that we all care about, I'm going to be at that protest and not here for that day. But otherwise, I'm going to be listening to you face to face. My phone call would be there right now. You can't call your senators, especially right now because he's a prosecutor now. But the other senator, I don't know how they got him on the phone, but they got him on the phone somehow.
Thank you.
I'll be available.
To get things through the roadblock in Lansing, you have to have tough negotiation skills. Not only that, you have to compromise in some regard, but with compromising, when you hold the House and you hold the Senate, you hold 2/3 of what you need to move past anything. And unfortunately, we don't have Republicans that are very strong in either of those places. Because if we did, we'd be able to stop a lot of the stuff that's going on. If you ask for the horse, you get the dog, right? Is the saying. We need more Republicans to ask for the horse. You need more Republicans to bring more to the table when you negotiate with the governor. Logic will always beat emotion, but it has to be proven in a way that everyone can understand it. No one is going to support anything if you can logically prove that it's the wrong thing to do for the constituents or for Michigan as a whole, for that matter. Democrats have a special power, I call it, where they're able to use emotion on everything that they do, whether it be climate change, which is a falsehood, whether it be abortion, whatever their topic is, critical race theory, you name it. You need to develop ways of logic to explain it to the masses, and that will solve many of our issues, I believe.
Thank you.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I can be a bull in a china shop, but you also have to be able to get along with people. I mentioned earlier, I'm a kid from the city. I came up in a very diverse area, and most of the area was Democrats. So you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to negotiate with people. Don't get me wrong, I got a strong line in the sand for anything conservative as far as our abortion and transgender and same-sex marriage and all those things, illegal immigration, all those things are in the line. There's no debating that. But we also got to remember that we have to, there's nothing wrong with us going to the constituents area. When I ran for sheriff, I went down to the South End. Everybody told me don't waste your time there. I went down to the South End and I talked to everybody. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. You have to get the message out to everybody. Believe me, these senators and House folks that are passing these crazy bills or coming up against you, maybe we need to go to their areas and ask those people, is that what you want? Because in most cases, they don't know. They don't know that they're being lied to. They don't know that they're voting against things that are just common, good old-fashioned sense to put America first and to put Michigan first. So we got to be able to communicate, but we also have to come up with other strategies and go to the people. That's the voice.
Thank you.
Well, we have to do concessions, right? I mean, even Trump gave up a little bit to get a little bit. So in doing that, maybe work with the governor, find out where some concessions can be made on both sides, come to an agreement. My background in corporate America, we've had to make a lot of concessions, going into meetings, trying to deal with many different people, a lot of diversity, to come ahead and to get what we want. So also, when you're working with legislative elected officials, and you see that they're leaning towards a different way other than what you would like to see, that what would better the community, you have to reach out to possibly that area, that district, where your constituents don't live, but to understand maybe where they're coming from and see where they stand and have them reach out to their representatives, so let their voices be heard in order to get something passed. You can't just solely, even though you represent a certain area, you have to cross over and reach out the other areas to have those people, those constituents, reach out to their elected officials, because that's the only way to do it. Sometimes you need a little bit of extra push, and that's the way of doing it. It's working with trying to understand the governor, Republican or Democrat, trying to give up a little to get a little. So that's what I would do as an elected official. If I'm looking to get the support of other Republicans or even Democrats that are in office, maybe talk with their constituents and see where they stand and have them reach out to their representatives. I think that's a good start, and you'd be surprised how responsive maybe some people can be.
Thank you very much.
Michigan's national identity is on the decline. People are leaving our state in record numbers to Florida and Texas. We lost one U.S. congressperson position and now have less federal representation in D.C. What ideas and initiatives do you have to attract more positive outcomes for Michigan? Final question.
Great.
So to bring people back to Michigan, you have to have an incentive for people to come back. Why are people going to Florida? You have to ask the question why. They're going there, lower taxes, it's a free and open state, there are no restrictions. I mean, they got up, they left, and they went there so that they could live their life like they did before COVID, or the scam that COVID was. If we look at other states and we take their ideas, doesn't mean we're not original, but it means that we want to be successful too. And states will compete with each other. I mean, we will always lose people to Florida during the winter. It's cold here. Older people don't like the cold weather, and I don't either. But those are all things that can be done at a policy level that can bring people back to Michigan. When you have taxes and you have no services here, your roads are garbage. No one cares about the roads here. The governor ran on the roads. I don't see many of the roads being redone, and the ones that have been redone have only had the top 2 inches resurfaced. How long do you think that's going to last? Maybe through her next election, and that's it. You have to have incentives for businesses, people, and others who want to be in the state. You have to draw corporations to the state, offer tax incentives to those corporations. That drives jobs, and jobs bring people back. We saw it time and time again in the Trump economy. Jobs came back to the U.S., the unemployment rate went down. People want to work, people want a purpose in life, and by doing those things, you'll bring them all back.
Thank you.
I think you hit it right on the head. The main thing is our taxation without representation. Our taxes are high. Our businesses are paying too much in taxes. Our citizens are. Our retired folks are being taxed on their income. That's why they're leaving. The retired folks, I mean, you get a raise when you move out of state. We have a lot of issues that we need to fix in Lansing. We need to balance our budget. We need to do that by lowering taxes, not putting them higher. We attract business that way. The movie business left. The movie business was flourishing in Oakland County and down in Detroit with the tax breaks that were given. And then when they were taken away, you haven't seen a movie made here in quite a while now. Our aerospace corridor, Sterling Heights, big. If you don't know about it, learn about it. We're going Selfridge Air Force Base up in off the Thumb. They're looking to put the satellites up for all these automated cars. Going to be big money and big business and big job opportunities in Michigan. This is one of the places that's prime land for being over the water and being in the geographical right location. So we need to really get those and nurture those for the people and get young kids now even. We're going to be an aerospace state. Let's start teaching these kids from young to get into that field. There's a ton of ways to do it, but we're not doing it. So that's what I would do.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, it always comes down to jobs, right? So maybe let's knock it off with the extended unemployment that's been used to keep people at home and kept businesses from really opening. And even these restaurants, they're only takeout now. A lot of them don't do sit down because they can't get the people to work. Taxes is always another one, right? They go hand in hand. We have a high tax bracket for the businesses here. I'd like to see that go down. to attract more positive outcome? Well, I look at the people and I say, what is the incentive truly for staying for Michigan? They're not happy. It's not an open state. Their kids have been forced to stay at home, wear a mask, and for a lot of districts still, I believe Kalamazoo is one of them that is still going to continue with the mask mandate in the fall. I mean, this shouldn't be happening. It's crazy to even say that and think that, but we have to do something, and I think it starts with, let's get jobs. Let's work on the jobs. Let's take away the unemployment, because that's an issue right now. A lot of businesses are really still hurting. We haven't heard too much about it. It seems like it's starting to dwindle down, but I want you to know that that extended unemployment is running all the way till September, and there's no reason for that. I see help wanted signs all over the place, and I'll tell you what, it's going to start hurting when the economy, when they have to go back to work and that unemployment is cut off. Another thing too is to increase the interest in trades. A lot of people are focused on sending their kids to school, which is fine, but there's a lot of people, we have a shortage of trades, okay? And of course with that, we have high demand for workers, and we just don't have them. They've left the state, they've gone elsewhere, and so we need to bring interest in those fields.
Thank you.
Well, let's start with one of our largest industries, of which I now work indirectly in, and that would be the automotive industry. If you're in a state where you have businesses that know how to build car parts, you have employees that know how to build cars, everything from the seats to the little valve stubs to the steering wheel to the little plastic Jesus on your dashboard, if you got one, they can put that there. Why would you open Saturn in Tennessee years ago? Why would Nissan not come to where people know how to build cars and instead go somewhere else? Some people say unions, but I'll tell you, there are good unions out there. One of my favorites is the IBEW, Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, as an example. They offer training and benefit for what's there. So unions can be a partner with things and not just a distraction. But Michigan had and still has a business property tax where you build something, if it's on my current industry, I can tell you there's a thing called rolling stock out there. Rolling stock is real simple. If I have an iPhone here at the shipper, that iPhone is taxed by the state of Michigan. If I have it at the retail store, it's taxed by the state of Michigan. If it's on a truck, it's not. And so what happens? Just-in-time inventory happens, and people do all kinds of things to avoid the taxes. Michigan has way more taxes than Tennessee. It has way more taxes than Texas. Texas doesn't even have an income tax, if I remember right. People are moving and escaping California from that. Lots of talent going to Texas for that. And in the summertime, we have better weather and fewer tornadoes. We also have more opportunity. The other thing I would support here is some kind of a program for people on unemployment to say, you know what, you want to extend it a little more? Start a business. You could be a landscaper. You could open a shop in one of the many buildings that's still closed and boarded up. And one last thing before I go is on the way up this morning, coming back from Dayton on my job, I happened to go by a brand new Welcome to Pure Michigan sign. I was shocked that it didn't have a mask on it. We need to be a free state also, to be welcoming truly to people that want to start a business here. That's where the jobs come from.
Well, let me just express thank you to each of our candidates for being here today and making the effort and clearly communicating. It has really been a help to all of us. Let me also say thank you for your gracious kindness, not only to us as moderators and going with the rules. That was very helpful. But it is time for us to close, and so we're going to give each candidate 1 minute for their closing arguments, and we'll start with Mr. McCoskey.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for being here. In closing, I'm probably here tonight for the same reasons that you are. I watched the lack of leadership in our Republican Party in Lansing for the last year and a half. We had a runaway governor, we have a runaway government who did nothing to follow the Constitution or our laws. So after prayerful consideration with my family, I felt compelled to take my law enforcement investigative skills and desires to serve the people of my community to Lansing. I watched like you did while our governor shut down businesses, schools, imposed illegal mandates on our citizens, and ignored our Constitution. Like you, I questioned, why are we not hearing from our elected representatives? So the first thing I did was check the qualifications to run for Senate. Once again, you must be 25 years of age. Check. You must be a U.S. citizen. Check. You must be a registered elector of the district at least 30 days prior to the filing deadline. Check. I'm a legal person. I do everything by the book.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mary?
I'm sorry that he's so defensive on that, but he is still claiming 100% home.
Well, when
state
somebody
rights.
challenges your
I'm
integrity,
sorry.
that's the way I tend to be.
Okay.
So my closing statement is, I'm the only candidate who possesses the true skill set, tenacity, and can deliver the message in a professional manner to confront the true issues, the real issues we are all facing here in Michigan with respect to our 8th district. My Christian values will come first. I am running for the future of all of our children and this great state of Michigan. It's time for we the people to take back our government. I am a true, strong Republican, an unafraid leader, and I'm ready to get to work for you. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America.
Well, let me start by saying, if elected, I'm probably going to see if I can hire the folks on this stage with me as consultants. You guys are all awesome. And myself, I'm running because I am actually the kind of guy that our founders had in mind for coming through. I'm not a professional politician. I'm not a professor. I'm a regular guy with a regular job out there who happens to be passionate about politics, passionate about freedom, so much so that I spend just about every Sunday I can at 23 in Van Dyke playing music and having fun with a microphone doing that. I love being with those people out there because that is where the real people are. That's also where we know which person actually won the White House. But on the second side of things, I would be proud to serve anybody on this stage. I would be proud to have anybody on the stage as my senator. I would like to be the one that gets elected because, again, I believe I'm the person humble enough to be here, to listen to you, to do things that you would like to see done in the state, and to fight for us in your name. I want to add one more thing. I know it's against the bell, but I just want that's the nicest bell I've ever heard. I gotta.
Thank you. Grant.
Over the last year, we've had our constitutional, God-given rights infringed day after day after day as Michiganders. Nobody has stood up for us. Not our representation in the House, these two specifically who impact us, not our senators. We don't have a senator right now, but any of the senators there. Nobody has gone and questioned the authoritative powers that the governor has used and been using unquestionably or without any question in that matter. We need someone who's actually going to question those powers. We need someone who's going to hold the governor accountable, and we need someone who's going to hold everybody else in their respective chamber accountable, whether it's in the House or the Senate. The two individuals who didn't show up tonight, everybody here should be questioning, why aren't they here? Why didn't they have the respect to show up to their constituents and ask, or to answer the questions that were going to be asked? They knew about it. The only one who didn't know about it was me. I didn't know until Monday because there are politics inside of the Republican Party and people who don't like me. The reason they don't like me is because I call them out for their fallacies. I will always tell you the truth, and I'll never lie to you. These individuals will always lie to you. And if I wasn't running, I'd vote for this man because he's the best. And thank you for your service to the Vietnam vet in the front. Thank you very much.
And I am definitely voting for you now.
Thank you so much. Well, we here believe in the First Amendment and having your voice be heard. So if your question was not answered, we have provided index cards at the front, and you will be able to write your questions there. We will then be collecting them at the end.
We will then create a list of questions for our Senate candidates, and we will ask them to respond via email. This is where your email address is critical, and so that you put that down with your question. And if you would like to be included in this exchange where all of the questions are being answered, please sign up the sheet that is going around at the front. By signing the sheet, you will also get alerted to any upcoming events. I would like to turn it over to Darlene Dotzel, the creator of this event. Without her, this would not have happened. Let's give Darlene a round of applause.
flags on boxes. That's for donations. You can donate to your candidate of your choice as well as there will be sheets for their literature, their signs, and T-shirts that are available to you from those candidates. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for supporting all these candidates, and thank each one of you candidates.
Thank you all, and
You
God
all
bless you.
did great. Thank you.
Darlene. If they want to gift the name is $20 for Roy. Remember I said the gifting.
The index cards are right up here. If you want to come, there's a place here to sign up, your email addresses, and make sure you fill them out. You can turn them over, leave them right here, and we will make sure that the candidates are able to get them, answer them, and then you will receive the answers to the questions that you have put. Anything else?
Yes, these signs have been paid for by Roy Wilson, all the signage. Let's give him a hand. And he would like, if you would like to gift these signs to the candidates, they are $20. So if you would like to gift them to the candidate, you would give Roy Wilson. Roy, give a hand. Where are you, Roy? Right
Stand.
there. Give Roy $20, and that will help pay for some of the cost. Thank you.
And this concludes our debate, and let me once again thank you, candidates, for your time and your gracious answers. Thank you, crowd, for coming and for supporting the debate tonight. You are dismissed.
Yes. One last thing. Actually, you may wonder, does anyone know what the 8321 in the back is? In the balloons. Anyone know?
Primary election.
That is the date of the primary election. So it was kind of subliminal back there. 8321. If you don't show up to 8321, your favorite candidate may not win. Please show up.
Amen.
Yes, and tell everyone else. All right, awesome. And guys, we would like a candidate picture of all of you if you could stand on the, yeah.